Hey guys, Ryan Earnhardt here from CreativeSoundLab.tv. Today I want to give you 5 items that everybody should have if you ever want to record drums. No matter what you end up recording, no matter what style of music, these 5 items are great to have on hand. The first one is a snare drum, like a decent snare. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be like a Black Beauty that costs $500. Even something like a Ludwig Acrolite. You just need a decent sounding drum that sounds good. Any of the Supraphonics, if you can find one that's just kind of pitted out and not really valued to a collector, but still sounds great, well, that's a great drum to have. It looks like a beater, but it sounds great. And if the drummer coming into your studio or your friends don't have a good snare, well, you have at least a decent snare. And that snare is critical to a good drum sound. I mean, it can really change the whole sound of the kit when you change out the snare drum. Number 2 is a good quality ride cymbal. No matter what style of music, even if it's harder rock or metal genres, you'd be surprised how adaptable a thinner sounding ride cymbal could be. Something that is okay to crash if the drummer smacks the side of it. I'm not saying a jazz cymbal, I'm just saying a little bit on the thin side. Now, if you get a good quality ride cymbal, the top end of your mix for those drum tracks is going to sound great. It's hard to fake a good set of cymbals. If you can't afford a whole set of cymbals, at least get a ride, and get a ride that you can crash as well as just hit it with the tip at your typical ride sound. Kind of my favorite picks for ride cymbals are like a K-Custom Dark Ride, Peisty 2002 Medium Ride, or the Byzance line from Meinl. Those sound fantastic. Now, I do want to mention that I have made a collection, a one-click download of all of my PDFs over the past 7 years. So you can actually get access to all of my free downloads for all of the Creative Sound Lab videos just by going to the link in the upper right or the link in the description. You can check that out. It's a free download for my PDF collection. Okay, number 3 is kick drum heads. Typically, you have muffling that's built into the head. That's the best way to change the actual sound of the drum, the tone of the drum. It's different than just stuffing the drum with muffling. It actually helps to really kind of make it sound like a thicker drum. And not just make it more dead, but it really kind of gets into the DNA of the sound of the drum when you have muffling built in to the drum head. We're talking Power Stroke 3 by Remo. We're talking GMAD or EMAD by Evans. You can just swap out those heads, get a different sound. Another cool tip is to take an old kick head and cut nearly the whole thing out. So cut a huge hole in it so that only like an inch or two around the perimeter is remaining. And what that gives you is a wide open kick drum in the front, but it gives the hardware something to screw down to so that the hardware is under tension, it won't rattle. You have the option of mic placement and doing the blanket thing if you want. That way you get an open kick drum and there's no rattling. So save an old head for that trick. Number 4 is related to this in that having 2 to 3 kick mics is a good idea. You know, it's one of those sources that if it doesn't work with one mic, switch out the mic and it immediately either fixes the problem or makes it worse. And so it's, again, one of these drums that a mic selection is key. And it's a lot easier to get a good tone with the right mic than try to have to EQ it later. A common option is the D6 by Audix. Kind of a middle neutral ground is like the M88 by Beyerdynamic. So having a selection can really make a difference very quickly in how the kick sounds. So with the kick heads, of course, the muffling that you can take in and out, and then the kick microphones, you can get a long way no matter what kick drum that you have. Number 5 is a variety of snare drum heads. And just as I mentioned how having the muffling built into the drum head kind of changes the DNA of the drum. It changes the sound of the drum more than just putting a Moonjo on the head. It's the same with snare drum. You have your Ambassador coated by Remo. That's kind of a classic. But then you have some like heavier options. Like you have the Evans HD Dry, which is a great kind of quick fix. If you don't like the sound, you can have one of these heads for $15-20 and it just might be a game changer if you can't get the ringing under control. You can have your moon gels, you can have your little sticky hands, whatever you want for your muffling, but at least have a few different head options. 2 to 3 drum heads can really go a long way in your toolkit for recording drums in general. Let me know what you thought of this. This was just a kind of a list of kind of the bare minimum. If you have a studio but you don't want to buy a whole kit, you don't want to buy a whole set of cymbals, you can get by with these 5 things. A good snare, a good ride. Again, these can be beat up items. This one's cracked. Some kick drum heads, 2 or 3 kick mics, and some snare drum heads. Those 5 things will really take you a long way. Talk to you soon in the comments.